Today on Arts 24, a celebration of love in all its forms. Romantic, oppressive, parental, love that frees us and love that binds us too. Multi-faceted artist Dorothée Munyaneza explores them all via music, dance and drama, adapting Kae Tempest's play Hopelessly Devoted into a French-language production, Unconditional. Dorothée joins us in the studio now to tell us more. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, I mentioned some of those love stories that we encounter in your play, Inconditionelles, and it's actually set in a prison, not the first place we'd associate with a love story, perhaps. How did you see the possibilities for bringing those relationships to life in a constrained space physically, the stage, but also constrained socially and politically, I suppose, for prisoners?
Well, I guess love is what we share as human beings, as living beings, not just human beings, but also, I think, between animals, there is a certain kind of affection. And in prison, whether we want it or not, it's a space where love can exist, where human beings are under pressure, are oppressed, are being constrained in many forms, but love finds its way to exist. And in this theater, I really wanted the characters of Chess and Serena to share this love, not only because I wanted it, but because that's how the play has been written. Kae Tempest brought love in that space, brought love in spaces where we normally wouldn't want to have love or find love or share love, because love requires some kind of freeing aspect, some kind of liberating aspect, where these people are often not able to feel free or to feel liberated. So yes, it's something that I wanted to honor in the writing, in the translation, and also in the form that these characters are being given and shared with the audience.
Well, let's take a look at that relationship between Serena and Chess, which is at the center of the play. Here's a short clip of Inconditionnelles.
Bon, maintenant, Francesca, on arrête les conneries, ok?
Je sais pas.
Ils ne me prendront pas.
Même les monstres sont gentils quand ils veulent bien.
Ils ne me prendront pas ma liberté.
Regarde-nous, Silver. Une toxico, une voleuse et une putain de tueuse. Tu crois qu'une d'entre nous voulait que les choses se passent comme elles se sont passées?
So Kae Tempest's play was originally in English. They're just one of the many artists you've collaborated with over the years, creators from very different backgrounds. What was it about Kae's work that really inspires you?
I think it's the words, let's say the rhythm, the musicality of their work, the themes that they actually bring to our eyes and our hearts when they're writing, their vocal capacity of bringing worlds together. And I think Kae Tempest's vocabulary spoke to me because I lived in London for a while, for 14 years, and reading their words reminds me of this childhood, of this young self that I was living there, and how that has carried me up to this day living in France. So I guess it's the word. I'm attracted to words. I'm attracted to the power of words, how words can embody or bolden people or create other worlds where freedom is not able to expand itself. So word is where everything starts. When we master words, when we master language or vocabularies, there are certain powers that we can actually bring into life. So for me, in Kae Tempest's world, I feel emboldened, I feel inspired, I feel challenged and truly seen also.
It's certainly powerful poetry that they make. Now, you changed the title, the original title, Hopelessly Devoted, to Inconditionnel, unconditional. How do we love in certain conditions? It made me think, to a certain extent, of your 2017 piece, Unwanted, which explores the painful legacy of the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda 30 years ago, specifically the children born of rape, of war crimes. The love of the mothers for those children is an extremely complex dynamic in your work. What would you say you've learned about these human relationships and the conditions they exist in?
I'm a mother myself of 2 children, and I know that this is one of the strongest bonds that there can be. anyway, for someone who has had the chance or the privilege or the choice to be a mother. And I know that in this piece, also Unwanted and Inconditionnelles, hopelessly devoted, there are these mothers. All of them are mothers, actually. Chess, Serena, Silva, except the guard, we don't know whether she is a mother or not. So being a mother in both Unwanted and in Inconditionnelles is something that I wanted to celebrate, even though the children in Inconditionnelles are not present. Chess is a mother to a child she doesn't see, Kayla, but because she's always writing to her, she exists within these walls. She makes her become alive within her words. All the lyrics that she's writing, all the songs that she's singing to her, is this love that is pouring out of her heart to her child. And in Unwanted, these mothers again are creating an impossible bond. To love a child born of rape is something that is incredibly challenging. And when I met these mothers, they were all genocide survivors and had chosen to keep their children, basically to not have abortion. Loving these children was also a challenge. It was something extraordinary for them to do, to master, and to defend these children in the face of a society that rejected them. So Unwanted, for me, was also about rehabilitating these lives or these unwanted lives in a society where they're forgotten, where they're cast aside, where they're being uncelebrated. And so in these two spaces, the prison, but also in the society, where the walls are not visible, where the bars are invisible, how do we celebrate mothers who are doing the work to not forget what they're here to do and defend?
And indeed, looking back at your performances, that reckoning with history, sometimes examining very painful events, has been a rich source of inspiration. You worked with musician Kiam Alami to create the piece Toi, Moi, Tituba, You, Me, Tituba, which takes us all the way back to the Salem witch trials of the 17th century in Massachusetts. Let's take a look at that performance here in Paris. Dorothée, I believe that piece was inspired by writing from both philosopher Elsa Dorlin and author Maryse Condé. Tell us a bit about the roots of Toi, Moi, Tituba.
Toi, Moi, Tituba really came from an encounter with Elsa Dorlin's text, which is called Toi, Moi, Nous, Tituba, ou l'Ontologie de la Trace, which actually traces back to the archives on colonization and slave trade. And she is actually going back to the archives and seeing the lives or examining the lives that, again, are forgotten or not read about, not uttered within the administration, where these lives have actually been erased. And so for me, Tituba, that I found in the writing of Elsa Dorlin, but also in the book of Maryse Condé, Tituba, Sorcière Noire de Salem, is about going back to the ones who are not named, the ones who are erased or invisibilized within the societal, philosophical, economical erasures of our capitalist regimes. So for me, Tituba is about remembering, is about celebrating those lives, remembering these women, remembering these men also who have been erased through slave trade or colonial systems. And I didn't want only to focus on the erasure, I wanted to focus also on the being here, on the being alive, on the being enlivened through the music, through text, through dance, through the memories that we hold as beings, but also as artists. And for me, Tituba is really about that being that symbolizes all those beings that are marginalized.
And Dorothée, as an associated artist at the Chaillot Theatre here in Paris, you invited Rwandan performers to create a piece together called Umuko. It's inspired by the beautiful red flowering tree that's indigenous to your home country, Rwanda, I think. What do the young artists of today in Rwanda tell you about where the scene is going in the future? How do you see it?
It's super exciting. The artists that I'm actually working with in Umuko are some of my favorite. They're really working within the music sphere. They're dancers, they're visual artists, they're musicians, composers, performance artists, and working also in fashion. So all of these artists, for me, they inspire me to continue creating these bridges, because there is not only one way to do things. They're going in different ways to find how to continue expressing our history, where we come from, linked to really the past, even pre-colonial era, and projecting us into the future. And ejo, which is a word I actually also address in this work, it's in Kinyarwanda, which means yesterday and tomorrow. It's the same word. For me, the art scene, or the artists, both in Umuko, but also all the ones I'm very super excited about living in Rwanda, are connecting ejo, yesterday and tomorrow, by actually creating right now with what they have, the materials they use, the instruments that they're actually creating with, their voices, the stories that they're telling. And even in cinema, it's an exciting scene in cinema right now in Rwanda. So there is this creativity that is encouraging me where I am right now to continue staying in contact with them and to continue creating with them, because they are the future. Truly.
Despite some of these really serious, heavy themes in your work, there's always a joyful element to it. You've said that before, that joy is a weapon. Tell us about that. What can joy do on stage in your hands?
For me, joy is a form of resistance. Poetry is a form of resistance. Beauty is a form of resistance. And in my work, I'm constantly finding ways to bring those into the space, to share it with the people, to share it with the audience, because that is where we resist, that's where we reside, that's where we become even more connected, because it is about connection. It is about how we are linked to one another, how we can come into contact with one another, and that is the beauty of art. It creates possibilities, and joy is one of them, because without it, there is no hope, really.
Yeah.
We have to work towards joy. We have to fight for joy. We have to live in that joy.
Yeah, and experience it through artistic creations. Dorothée,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll wrap up the show with more of Dorothée's work. This is a polyglot performance of a cappella, recently staged in Rome, and Unconditional is on stage now at the Bouffes du Nord Theatre in Paris. Otherwise, do check in with us here next time on Arts 24 and on our social media channels too.